Hi there, it's Carter again. So earlier today, when I was driving, and just on a side note, it seems as though most of my major decisions regarding coming out happen when I'm driving. I've noticed. I actually decided that I was going to come out when I was driving, and today, on the third anniversary of coming out, I decided to create this channel. So maybe I should drive more, maybe I should drive less, I'm not really sure. But anyway, initially my idea was that I was going to tell the whole story in one video. But as I thought through that, I thought, that's going to be a really long video, and I don't know that anyone is going to want to sit through that whole thing. And honestly, I think it's best just to break it up into pieces. So even though tonight is the third anniversary of my coming out, I am going to start at the beginning and let this progress over time to tell my story. And then hopefully this channel will become just things that I want to say, things that I have thoughts about, or maybe things that are prompted by other people. And who knows, I might even have some special guests who have insight. I certainly know a lot of people who have told me things that have been very helpful in this journey. But anyway, so let's start. I was born in 1969 in Alabama, in northern Alabama, and I'm not going to name the town, although if you know me, you know what that town is. And over time, I've thought a lot about, why was it that I stayed in the closet so long? And I've recognized that there are many factors. So I don't know that I certainly won't get to all of them in this video, but I just want to talk about where I came from and how that affected that. Like I said, I was born in 1969, so my younger years were in the 1970s, and my middle school and high school years were in the 1980s. And I have, just through thinking through it, have come to the conclusion that not only was the community that I lived in a large part of why I stayed in the closet, but also just the timing of it all. And so I want to get into that a little bit. I grew up, as you might expect, in a very conservative community. Now, my family themselves were not particularly conservative. I mean, most people here are religious, and I grew up in a religious family, but I would say that in general, we were certainly more liberal than most. But interestingly, I was very affected by the community around me, which was, let's say, fundamental, maybe not some fundamentalist, but just very conservative, evangelical, religious, majority Southern Baptist was in my town. And when I was growing up, I remember when I first started to realize that I was different than others because I had a crush on my best friend when I was in sixth grade. It was very confusing to me because the community around me hadn't even gotten to that point. It wasn't that they had really seemed to form an opinion on being gay or not, or if they had, I certainly hadn't heard about it. They were more concerned with whether the kids in the Baptist choir were dancing, or whether they're, what they were doing with their hand movements and things, whether it qualified as movement or dancing, because dancing was a sin, and that sort of thing. So, and also it was a very homogeneous town. Ironically, the word homogeneous. Basically one race, and you can guess what that race was. So the concern was more about racial aspects. There was a lot of KKK activity and things like that. So I I'd never had anybody saying to me all the way really through high school, other than just a few little quips here and there as far as like a generic insult, but nobody really even seemed to have an opinion about being gay because there was an assumption that nobody was gay really. And so it was exceedingly confusing when those feelings started to come in, and then I started to notice them and feel them as I matured. And so that's just sort of the base of what I dealt with. I guess I'll start with telling the story of when I first kind of figured out that I was different in some way. I had a friend, and as kids do, I was in 6th grade, so I was probably about 11, I guess. We stayed over at his house for a sleepover. It was just me and him, and we were very good friends. And I remember thinking that he was cute. I thought he was really cute. And I remember we were, his mother had let us use a king-sized bed in like a basement area or a extra room or something. And so we were laying in the bed, and he was on the other side, and he was sleeping. And I just remember having these feelings of what I would call puppy love for him. And I remember it feeling really wonderful, but at the same time really confusing, because I was thinking, well, this is weird. I feel this thing that feels so wonderful and feels so right and feels so normal, but wait a minute. This is a boy. I'm supposed to feel that way about girls. So it was very confusing. But at the same time, it was sort of what, I wouldn't even say that I'd figured out at that point that it felt wrong. It just felt odd, and I didn't understand it. So that was really kind of the first time that I recognized that I was different. And I'm sure for those out there who are LGBT plus, they've had similar experiences where all of a sudden something just didn't make sense. And so that was the beginning. And you know what? I'm going to stop this video here, because I'm realizing if I keep talking and going all the way through like to college, this video is going to take forever. So we're going to stop here. We're going to start at age 11. So that would put me at 1980. Now, so politically then, you will remember that Ronald Reagan had just come into office. The Iran hostage crisis had ended, and gay men around the world were blissfully unaware of the disease that was about to appear mysteriously very soon. So we're going to stop right here. I'll continue with my story later on. Bye.